just get started. I think so the slides are in Spanish, and then I'm going to play a few videos in Spanish as well. But I think I'm mostly just speaking in English, but you feel free to use either language if that's good. Cool. So welcome to this class. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Spanish Civil War, which is a very interesting part of Spanish modern history. So I think today we're going to quickly talk about like the timeline, so where the Civil War fit into the modern history of Spain, and then we talk about like some of the causes of the Civil War, the developments, and then the impact as well. So maybe we can start with a timeline of the Civil War. So as you can see in this graph, so we're going to focus on the red brackets. So it happened in 1936, between 1936 to 1939. So that was like right before the Second World War. So basically after it ended, the Second World War happened. So if you look at this, if you look at here, it happened during the Second Republic of Spain. So before that, before 1931, Spain was ruled by Alfonso the 13th. And then there's this republic. So basically, the king was no longer ruling. So you have like kind of like a democracy. But then it only lasted a few years before there was the Civil War. And so the Civil War ended with basically the dictatorship of Franco. So that lasted for a long time, more than 3 decades, from 1939 to 1975. So that was a long dictatorship in the 20th century. Are there any questions so far? Cool. So let's look at very quickly who we're fighting against who. So basically you have the Republic side, so the Republican band on one side that I was trying to defend the Second Republic of Spain. And then on the other hand, you have basically the bando sublevado. So they basically had a coup in 1936 against the Second Republic. And then we talk a little bit more about why they're not happy with the Second Republic. And so if we look at the lower side of the graph of the slide, so for the Republican band, it's mostly, so you have the Second Republic, so like the government, and you have a lot of like more socialist groups, so more left-wing groups, and also the nationalists of Catalonia as well. And then on the other side, you have the el bando sublevado. It's also known as the el bando nacional. So it was basically led by, it was a lot of right-wing groups. So you have like the military, and then you have basically fascist groups. So maybe I'm not going to go into details of them, but so you have like basically Los Falanges, Carlistas, and some of the other groups as well. And then another thing is that it was supported by the Catholic Church. So basically what happened in the Second Republic was that they enacted a lot of reforms, agricultural reforms, that took away the land of a lot of landowners, so like rich landowners, and they also weakened the power of the Catholic Church. So that's why basically the nobles and the Catholic Church and also like all the right-wing, more the groups that are not socialists were not happy with the Second Republic. So that's why they had a coup in 1936. And if you look at the photo in the middle, there are also other countries that supported each of the bands. So for the Republican side, you have the Soviet Union, and then you also have Mexico that supported them. And then on the other side, because the bando sublevado was a lot more basically right-wing and fascist. So you have Germany, and then you also have Mussolini's Italy and Portugal as well. Any questions so far? Cool. So now we're gonna basically watch a video on the coup that happened in 1936. So that was basically the el bando sublevado was having a coup against the Republican government. So I'm now gonna share a different screen. So that should be this one. So he's going to talk about the coup in 1936. So the videos are in Spanish, and we'll also talk about it afterwards. Sorry about that.
La rebelión militar que el general Mola lleva meses preparando estalla el 17 de julio en Melilla. El 18 de julio, el general Franco se subleva en Canarias al frente de su guarnición. Tras dejar el control de Las Palmas en manos de los insurrectos, vuela hacia Tetuán en el Dragón Rapid para ponerse al mando de las tropas de Marruecos. Franco ha sido uno de los últimos generales en sumarse al golpe. En la península, la primera ciudad en caer en manos de los sublevados es Sevilla. Luego van cayendo una tras otra las capitales andaluzas. La noticia del éxito de la sublevación en varias provincias llega a Madrid en la tarde del 18 de julio. La alarma se instala en la población. Los sindicatos obreros exigen al gobierno el reparto de armas. El gobierno acaba cediendo. En Barcelona, los miembros del sindicato anarquista CNT, muy fuerte en Cataluña, que llevan tiempo preparándose para hacer frente a una posible sublevación derechista, se echan a la calle el día 19 de julio y consiguen reducir a los golpistas. En Madrid, miles de obreros recién armados asaltan el cuartel de la Montaña, donde se han hecho fuertes los militares sublevados. Los asaltantes consiguen la victoria después de una matanza. En Pamplona, el general Mola se ha sublevado con éxito y con el entusiástico apoyo de los carlistas, que se suman en masa al levantamiento. También caen las principales ciudades de Castilla y todas las de Galicia. El avión que va a traer desde Lisboa a España al general Sanjurjo para sumarse al golpe se estrella al despegar. Los golpistas pierden a su jefe. Pasados los primeros días, los sublevados controlan solo la tercera parte del país. Madrid y las ciudades industriales de España se han opuesto al levantamiento. El golpe, por tanto, ha fracasado. Los generales Mola y Franco comprenden entonces que solo por medio de una larga guerra de conquista podrán alcanzar la victoria. La guerra civil ha comenzado.
Yep. So I guess, does anyone want to quickly summarize what the video just talked about? If not, I'll just do that. Yep. So so basically it actually happened so at that time Spain was ruling Morocco. So the coup actually happened in Morocco first, on the first day, and then quickly it spread to basically the main continents of Spain. But then the coup they overtook some cities, but obviously didn't succeed completely. But that was basically how the Civil War started. So as a reminder, you can think of it as basically a conflict between the left and the right. So the right was basically having a coup against the more leftist Republican government. And so Franco, which was basically later became the leader of the right wing, the bando sublevado, basically. Cool. And then now we're actually gonna look at some of the causes of the Civil War, so that you can understand a little bit better the context of Spain at that time.
Hola chicos y chicas, y bienvenidos a La Historia se comprende. Hoy, en nuestra sección de Historia en un minuto, explicaremos las causas directas de la Guerra Civil Española. Los sucesos ocurridos meses antes del inicio del conflicto bélico son fundamentales para entender por qué estalla la guerra en 1936. Durante la Segunda República, la política y la sociedad progresivamente quedaron divididos en dos grandes bloques enfrentados, uno a la izquierda y otro a la derecha. Esta división se acentuará tras la victoria por mayoría del Frente Popular en las elecciones de febrero de 1936. Además, las organizaciones juveniles se militarizarán y crecerán de forma rápida, tanto las socialistas y comunistas ya unificadas como las de Falange, a la que se incorporan simpatizantes de partidos de derechas. Esto conlleva, de forma irremediable, al aumento de los conflictos sociales y civiles y a un creciente clima de violencia palpable en toda España. De hecho, más de 250 personas mueren en enfrentamientos entre grupos políticos en las calles entre febrero y junio del 36. Mientras que, en ciertos sectores de la sociedad, se extiende la sensación de que el gobierno del Frente Popular es incapaz de mantener el orden en el país. Precisamente serán estos sectores los que cada vez con más fuerza se opongan al gobierno de la República y finalmente apoyen el golpe de Estado, que ya desde la victoria en las urnas del Frente Popular en febrero del 36 estaban planeando Mola y Sanjurjo, y al que se unirá a última hora Franco. Entre ellos, monárquicos, carlistas, conservadores o falangistas. Sin embargo, el fracaso del golpe de Estado, debido a la resistencia de los grupos que apoyan a la República, conducirá a la división de España y a 3 largos años de guerra civil. Debido a la resistencia de los grupos que apoyan a la República,
Yep. So let's see. There you go. Yeah. So if you look at the top left corner, so basically the context is that Spain was very much divided between the left and the right. So like more socialist groups and also more basically right wing groups. So that was like the most important context of of Spain at that time. And then number two is just that they were like on the street there were some not minor, but like some fights that also helped, was also kind of used as an excuse to start the coup. And then if you look at number three, so El Frente Popular is basically the electoral coalition of the left-wing government, and the number four is the coup by Franco that basically partially failed, but that's how the war started. And then I'm not going to go back to the PowerPoint for now. So we're going to watch a few more videos, and then we'll talk about the consequences of the developments and the consequences of the war as well.
La española estalla cuando el ejército de África se subleva contra el gobierno del Frente Popular el 17 de julio de 1936. La rebelión militar estalló con éxito en Marruecos y al día siguiente alcanzó la península. Los golpistas tenían planeado ocupar las ciudades más importantes en un par de días, como mucho, pero no fue así. La intervención de las fuerzas de seguridad, las tropas leales y los civiles armados por el gobierno frustraron parcialmente el golpe. El alzamiento no triunfa ni en la capital, Madrid, ni en Barcelona. Dos Españas enfrentadas. La península quedó dividida en dos zonas, la republicana y la llamada nacional. De pronto los que antes habían sido adversarios políticos se convierten en enemigos de la noche a la mañana. Los generales del bando nacional vieron la necesidad de tener un mando único. A finales de septiembre del 36, una reunión de altos mandos de la facción sublevada decide nombrar a Franco como generalísimo de todos los ejércitos y jefe del nuevo estado erigido en la zona sublevada. El gran objetivo de los sublevados es tomar la capital. La gran ofensiva de Madrid es planificada como un movimiento convergente de las tropas de Mola por el norte y las de Franco por el sur. Si cae Madrid, los nacionales tienen ganada la guerra. Pero los defensores de la República no se lo ponen fácil. Se inicia la batalla de Madrid. Los republicanos, además del material bélico soviético, cuentan con unas unidades militares compuestas por voluntarios extranjeros de más de 50 países, las llamadas Brigadas Internacionales. El gobierno republicano presidido por Largo Caballero tomó la precaución de abandonar Madrid e instalarse en Valencia. Franco, habiendo renunciado a la toma de Madrid, inicia la ofensiva del norte y acabará ocupando la cornisa cantábrica. Mundialmente conocido será el episodio en el que los bombarderos alemanes de la Alemania nazi, la conocida como la Legión Cóndor, atacaron la ciudad de Guernica. Pablo Picasso dedicó a Guernica un cuadro que se expuso en París, tratando de mostrar los horrores de la guerra e intentar atraer la simpatía del público hacia la causa republicana. Con la presión que ejercía la aviación nacional y caída Tarragona, la resistencia republicana se hunde. El general Yagüe entra en Barcelona, entonces sede del gobierno, en enero de 1939 y sin apenas resistencia. Miles de republicanos, militares y civiles se exilian en Francia, entre ellos el poeta Antonio Machado, que viejo y enfermo fallecerá en Collioure el 22 de febrero. El 28 de marzo fue ocupada Madrid. El 1 de abril de 1939, Franco firma el último parte de guerra. La terrible guerra civil española había finalizado, dando paso a la larga dictadura de Francisco Franco, que duraría hasta el año 1975. Acá se
Cool. Now we're just gonna go over a few key moments in this video. So at first it talks about like how the coup started in Morocco. So that was under Spanish rule at that time, and then quickly it basically spread to the main continents. So if you look at this map. So the red part is the Republican government, and then the blue part is basically the el bando nacional or sublevado. So they didn't really succeed in taking Madrid at first.
De pronto los que antes habían...
Let me turn off the sound. Yeah, and then Franco was basically elected. Chosen as the leader, and then let's see. Yeah, so they basically at the beginning they stopped invading Madrid, and they decided to take the other cities first. And then you can see Francisco Franco there at the top of the picture. And then this is Guernica is basically a city in the northern Spain. So basically the German Nazis at that time, they bombed the city. So they were helping Franco basically with their attack on the Republican government. And then later on in this class, we'll also show you the painting that Picasso basically painted to show the horrors of the war as well. So that was quite interesting. And then finally, they just took everything. And then Franco basically became a dictator for the next 30-something years of Spain. Nice. Any questions so far? Cool. If not, we're gonna basically let's see, go over a few photos because they talk about like certain key parts of the Civil War as well. See. So a few ones I want to show you. Yeah, so for example, this one is like the participation of other countries. So on Franco's side, you have Mussolini and also Hitler, so of Italy and Germany. And then on the other hand, on the Republican side, you have Mexico and the Soviet Union that supported them. And then they actually also had something called La Brigada Internacional. So it was like a group of different countries that sent troops to support the Republican governments. And then if we go further down, so that was Francisco Franco. So he was basically named as the leader of the Fuerzas Nacionales. And then there are also a few more that I want to show you. Yeah, so there was a lot of bombing helped by the Nazi governments. So that was a photo of the that showed the destruction of it. And then actually during the war, so obviously a lot of people died from the fighting, but also there's a lot of executions of both sides as well. And then that is basically a group of different countries that supported the Republican governments. So they're called Las Brigadas Internacionales. And then here it talks about the role of the church. So the Catholic Church was basically on the side of the national band, so like of Francisco Franco, because the Republican governments basically weakened a lot of the power of the Catholic Church. And then there might be one more that I want to show you. Yeah, so this one is this is where basically Picasso painted the painting on. It was the bombing of a city in northern Spain called Guernica. I think that might be part of it. And then finally, and then towards the end of the war, Barcelona also fell, and then a lot of the Spanish people from the national band, they exiled to like France. A lot of them went to France, and then some of them went to Mexico and other countries to escape from the rule of Franco. Yeah, so that it. So that's it. And then we're gonna talk a bit more about the consequences of the Civil War. So I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint. Let's see. Yeah, so that was basically the videos that we just saw. And then, yeah, so basically more than 500,000 people died in the war. So a lot of them died from obviously the direct conflicts, the fight, the battles. And then a lot of them also died from executions. So basically the national band executed a lot of the Republicans, and the Republican governments also executed a lot of the other band. And then before that, Spain obviously was quite a rich country from colonization, but after the war, basically lost most of its wealth. And then after the war, you obviously have the dictatorship of Franco. So now let's go back to the video.
Chicos y chicas, y bienvenidos a La Historia se comprende. Hoy, en nuestra sección de Historia en un minuto, explicaremos las consecuencias de la Guerra Civil Española.
Es necesario crear una atmósfera de terror. Hay que dejar sensación de dominio eliminando, sin escrúpulos ni vacilación, a todo el que no piense como nosotros. Tenemos que causar una gran impresión. Todo aquel que sea abierta o secretamente defensor del Frente Popular debe ser fusilado.
Esta instrucción del general golpista Mola es representativa de lo que iba a ser la guerra civil y de las consecuencias que tendría sobre los españoles y españolas. La guerra no solo afectó a la industria y a la agricultura, ya que un gran número de ciudades e infraestructuras quedaron prácticamente destruidas. Además de las pérdidas materiales, los combates también causaron pérdidas humanas, que fueron mucho más importantes, ya que a las bajas militares hay que sumar las víctimas de la represión, las civiles y un total de aproximadamente 500.000 exiliados que se vieron obligados a huir de España. Una España que ya había abandonado la democracia con la eliminación de la Constitución de 1931, que significó la supresión de todos los derechos y libertades democráticas durante los siguientes 40 años, dando paso a una dictadura militar, con Franco como jefe del Estado y de gobierno prácticamente hasta su muerte en 1975. Por último, se institucionalizó la diferencia en la sociedad entre vencedores y vencidos, pues Franco en ningún momento se planteó ninguna política de reconciliación nacional, y así lo demostró con la Ley de Responsabilidades Políticas de 1939, que estableció la persecución de todos sus opositores políticos una vez terminada la guerra.
Yep. So if we look at, let's see. Yeah, if we look at this, yeah, so obviously, so economically, so a lot of the infrastructures were destroyed, and basically a lot of the wealth of Spain, the Spanish, was destroyed as well. And then a lot of people obviously died, so that was the second point of the demographics. And a lot of people also exiled to escape from the punishments enacted by Franco once he took power. And then socially and politically, the Second Republic ended. So that was the end of democracy. And then you have basically Franco that suppressed a lot of the liberties. And then finally, yeah, socially, basically Spain was even more divided between the winners and losers. And now let's go back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, so that is basically a summary of the Civil War. And then now, let's see. Not sure if I can. I'm not sure why the button is not working, but we can just do it like this. So we're gonna look at the painting of Picasso. So that was the painting is called Guernica. That was the northern city in Spain that was bombarded by the planes of Nazi Germany. And then we also look at a poem that describes the war as well. So let me do that. So we're gonna watch a video that talks about this painting of Picasso that is displayed in Paris right now. Yep, can you all see it now? Nice. So that's a brief video on this famous painting that talks about the sufferings and the pain of the war. And you can see like animals and human beings as well. And if we look at this one, so that was a painting in a museum in Paris. And then next, we're also gonna take a look at, am I still sharing the screen? Yes. Of Pablo Neruda. So he is a Chilean poet that won the Nobel Prize. So we're gonna take an excerpt of his collection of poems called Española en el Corazón. So that also talks about the horror of the Civil War as well. So remember, more than 500,000 people died. So that was a lot of people, and also a lot of sufferings. And so now I'm going to share a different screen. Just give me 1 second. That would be screen. That would be, oh yeah, I found it. So I just want to do it side by side. Can you now both see, can you see both windows? So like the poem on the left-hand side and the video on the right-hand side. That's the poem of Pablo Neruda, and we're going to watch an excerpt of it. I shouldn't do full screen now. So it starts from here, like the second stanza.
Os voy a contar todo lo que me pasa. Yo vivía en un barrio de Madrid con campanas, con relojes, con árboles. Desde allí se veía el rostro seco de Castilla como un océano de cuero. Mi casa era llamada la Casa de las Flores, porque por todas partes estallaban geranios. Era una bella casa con perros y chiquillos. Raúl, ¿te acuerdas? ¿Te acuerdas, Rafael? Federico, ¿te acuerdas debajo de la tierra? ¿Te acuerdas de mi casa con balcones en donde la luz de junio ahogaba flores en tu boca? Hermano, hermano. Todo eran grandes voces, sal de mercaderías, aglomeraciones de pan palpitante, mercados de mi barrio de Argüelles con su estatua, como un tintero pálido entre las merluzas. El aceite llegaba a las cucharas, un profundo latido de pies y manos llenaba las calles, metros, litros, esencia aguda de la vida, pescados hacinados, con textura de techos con sol frío en el cual la flecha se fatiga, delirante marfil fino de las patatas, tomates repetidos hasta el mar. Y una mañana todo estaba ardiendo. Y una mañana las hogueras salían de la tierra devorando seres, y desde entonces fuego, pólvora desde entonces, y desde entonces sangre. Bandidos con aviones y con moros, bandidos con sortijas y duquesas, bandidos con frailes negros bendiciendo, venían por el cielo a matar niños, y por las calles la sangre de los niños corría simplemente como sangre de niños. Chacales que el chacal rechazaría, piedras que el cardo seco mordería escupiendo, víboras que las víboras odiaran. Frente a vosotros he visto la sangre de España levantarse para ahogaros en una sola ola de orgullo y de cuchillos. Generales, traidores, mirad mi casa muerta, mirad España rota, pero de cada casa muerta sale metal ardiendo en vez de flores, pero de cada hueco de España sale España, pero de cada niño muerto sale un fusil con ojos, pero de cada crimen nacen balas que os hallarán un día el sitio del corazón. Preguntaréis, ¿por qué su poesía no nos habla del sueño, de las hojas, de los grandes volcanes de su país natal? Venid a ver la sangre por las calles. Venid a ver la sangre por las calles. Venid a ver la sangre por las calles.
Cool. So, does anyone have any thoughts, or maybe want to talk about it, or share what you think? Yeah. So basically, so Pablo Neruda is a Chilean poet. So at that time, he actually lived in Spain for a year or so. So he then, this poem talks about like the horror of the war. So like a lot of blood, a lot of fires, a lot of deaths as well, of Spain, as we just saw. And so that is a very interesting and important part of the history of Spain. And let's go back to the PowerPoint. Any questions? If not, thanks a lot for attending this class, and I hope you have a great rest of the Sunday.